Yeah, Rich, how do you feel about the news? What's your take on it?
We're just completely deflated, really. I think, as a sport, we went through what we had to go through last year, and I don't think there were many clubs had it as bad as we did in terms of people off. Obviously we made the cup final, and the fixture congestion we had, and the times we had to field weakened teams, and I just think as a sport, I think there was a general feeling we'd got through all that, but clearly the new wave seems to be on its way, James, and that's the real worrying concern from us as a club this morning. We've had guys contract COVID, but also some of the guys that we stood down because of track and trace protocols have subsequently tested positive over the last sort of 24, 48 hours too, which it shows a couple of things. The track and trace thing has sort of worked in this instance, but it's a long time till Friday as well. And we're sort of in a position now where we think the next 24, 48 hours, given what happened to us before when we had an outbreak in the club, and we're following protocols, and unfortunately the protocols, I think around 6 players that we have had to stand down on track and trace have all had COVID. They've all had COVID, so I guess the likelihood of them getting infected is not great, we're thinking. But at the same time, rules are rules, and we got to follow protocol. So it's frustrating. Beautiful night, home game. So the financial aspect for our club, you're kicking fixtures down the road and looking at what's in front in June, July. The concern for me as a coach is I'm losing a shed load of players over the next 10 days. We're on the back of a good win. Feel we're getting players back, getting some momentum. So there's going to be a break in that, and it's looking at the congestion we could well face down the track. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, disappointing, worrying as we move forward. I guess given what's happening in the country and the rate that infections are going up, there does, experience over the last 12 months tends to tell you that there's a bit of a correlation. We've seen it at Huddersfield. So yeah, we're pretty deflated place this morning, coming in and a little bit like, here we go again.
Are you able to say anything about the circumstances of the positive tests? Were they affecting players that have been abroad during the break?
No one's been abroad, mate. No one's been abroad. A couple of them are out of the same area. Our initial first close contact, which were Cruz Lehman, and then Morgan Gannon is again another guy that lives out that way. But we've got, last time this happened and it came in, which were the different variant, it just went real quickly, and we've had 3 in 3 days come up, and as I say, some of those are what we've already track and trace. So it's just one of the things, James. How on earth do we know where and when they've picked it up or who from? And if we didn't have to stand players down that had already had COVID in the last 120 days, we'd be all right. But unfortunately, mate, we don't make the rules, and even pulling academy players up is a non-start for us. Our academy players have had 2 games in 18 months. We let a lot of our top-end academy go. Our top-end academy players who we think are ready to play first grade are already in our squad. Coupled with some injuries, it's genuinely impossible for us to field a team, given what the rules and the protocols are to field a team this weekend. So for all those reasons, it's incredibly disappointing and frustrating and deflating for us. Can't give it any other way, really.
Understandably. Is there anything clubs, the sport can do now or needs to do now to make sure it doesn't get out of hand, do you think?
It's hard to say. We've talked to the boys this morning about is there a sort of lull in relaxing protocols? Well, we don't think they have, but the bottom line is shops and restaurants and coffee shops are up, so we're like, look, can we afford to go in any public places anymore? Is it down to that? James, one of my first thoughts as well, is about Wembley finals. My thoughts are initially with us, and you can imagine what it's been like behind the scenes over these 24, 48 hours, working out, is there anything we can do to avoid this situation, which, we just come to the point where we don't think there is. We think there's nothing we can do without it being irresponsible, really, extremely irresponsible on our part. We're playing a team, or we're due to play a team that's in a Challenge Cup final in 4 weeks. Having been there ourselves last year, knowing what the testing procedures were like going into those games, and we've got 4 teams in the 1895 Cup and in the Challenge Cup final. If the rate of infection keeps doubling, as it seems to have done over the next 3 or 4 weeks, then there's a wider implication for the sport, the impact it could have on those showpiece games, which we know what it were like, which Dan Sargentson can tell you last year, the difficulty and the anxiety around all that. So yeah, look, I think if the rules were different, we would play by any rules to get this game on, but the rules aren't, and as I say, there's a question of us being irresponsible if we try and fudge the protocols, which we aren't. And between today, which is Wednesday, and Friday, when is the game, we still get a lot more testing, given we've had an outbreak in our club. So yeah, just as I say, mate, frustrating, I guess, worrying over the coming period for what it means for the game, and does nothing really but cause us problems down the track.
Finally, for me, Rich, what does it mean now for next week's game, which would, of course, be a trip away?
I think we're looking into that. Given the amount of guys that we have got stood down, and given we've got a COVID outbreak, is then you are travelling, travelling into a different country, being around COVID, having COVID in your place over the last 14 days. So I think, given the speed in which this has happened, James, and our first port of call is to address what happens with St Helens this week, I'm sure the coming 24, 48 hours, we're going to be looking towards that fixture and looking at that, really, and seeing if that's viable. So a lot of unknowns at the moment, mate, and as we've seen before, these situations sort of evolve by the hour, really. We've had another positive this morning based on track and trace, so that's straight away, we have to track and trace again on that player in a different way, which throws us up more. So yeah, it's very, very frustrating and disappointing, mate. Given we thought we were, I think we thought we were out of this. We've been pretty safe for a long time.
Thanks, Rich. Stay safe.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, pal.
Does it put next week's game into question as well?
I think it's too early to say yet. Again, Matt, probably jumping on the back of what I've already said. Kicking fixtures down the road just causes us nothing but problems, mate. And I saw a club and worked in a club here last year that we bent over backwards to get every fixture fulfilled, as you know. The toll it took on this squad were unbelievable. Towards the end of the season, it was last man standing. We're desperate to avoid those type of situations where we're playing, 4 games in 14 days and 5 games in 20 days. It just has too much an effect on your squad. So we're desperate, mate, to avoid that, and to get as many of his fixtures fulfilled in any way we can, as quick as we can.
From a welfare perspective, everything like that, would you rather play next week, even if it means you really, really, really low on numbers and down to the bare bones, and push it back and hope that you, because obviously with the 7 stand down thing, you have the choice to push it back if you want to, haven't you? You
have the choice, mate, but you also need to be able to field the team, and that were all right last year because we could do that, and we had some guys that were reserve grade players. Right now, as of now, we've got 14 players, and that is including some very, very young academy players that are in our squad. If the likelihood is that we can fulfill the fixtures anyway, we will do, mate. But again, you're back to welfare and the responsibility of, putting out a team that isn't full of 17-year-olds that are in danger of getting hurt, having had 2 games in 18 months and no first team experience, and the responsibilities around track and trace. You know, we don't make the rules on that. We're simply abiding by them. So yeah, we will, as I say, mate, doing everything everything we can this week to get it on, and we'll do everything we can do next week to get it on. But so we don't make the rules, and it's clearly a fast evolving situation where we are at the moment. Yeah, mate, we walked into a squad this morning that's just, here we go again, despondent. You know, we're on the back of a good win, and now all of a sudden we'll have at least 3 weeks between us next fixture. It just throws everything into an unknown sort of chaotic state, really, which we got through a lot last year. But it's not without its ramifications.